The first matchup we have is the rack versus the saw torture. The rack is a large wooden bed-like frame with rollers on each end. The dude's ankles and wrists are tied to each roller, then the rollers roll and the dude becomes stretchy. His muscles, joints and everything else just starts to tear, kinda like what Megatron did to Jazz in Transformers 1. The saw torture is a little bit different. You get a dude, right, and a dude or a lady is hung upside down. I'm feeling a bit queasy just talking about this one already. Anyways, so you get a saw, right, and you don't start sawing from the head. You place a saw in the vertices of the V, right, and then you go boop. Oh, and look, they're in half now. After my extensive research, this was for some reason an international torture method. Everyone from China, Persia, the Jews, Egypt, America, Asia, literally everyone had their version of the saw method. So which one of these is worse? Well, the thing with the rack is that you usually lived afterwards, but just with broken legs and arms, like a nugget. But at least you're alive. The saw method is just straight f***ed up. I saw this method in The Terrifier 1 a few months ago when I watched that movie, and nothing could have prepared me for that. As soon as I realised what he was about to do, I had to close my eyes, and I just felt sick. I gotta give this round to the saw method, and put it through to the semi-finals. Up next we have Scaphism versus the Pear of Anguish. Scaphism was mainly used by the ancient Persians, and scaph means boat in Greek. So the way this method works is the geezer is stripped butt naked and jammed in the middle of a boat, with his hands and feet and head exposed. They are then force-fed milk and honey until they get violent explosive diarrhea. Honey is continuously applied to their body parts, including the anus, to attract insects. This is so messed up. The boat just chills out in the sun, and a few days later insects swarm, larvae hatch, and the victim is eaten alive by bugs, and he dies slowly from infections. And the worst thing about this method is that this shit would last for a week, maybe even over a week a little bit. The Pear of Anguish is also very fucked up. It's a metal device that looks like a metal pear, and each side could expand outwards, like a flower blooming, or blossoming. This device was put into one of 3 holes, and I don't mean your ears and your nose. Supposedly though, this device didn't have the intention of killing, which is good. It was just meant to cause some organ damage. Both of these methods suck, but I think I have to give it to Scaphism here, purely because of the time period that you just have to sit in the boat slowly dying, and I'm not a fan of bugs. Next up we have the rat method versus impalement. Now the rat method is fairly simple. You tie a Donnie down, put a rat on his stomach, you put a metal container over the rat, you heat the container, the rat panics due to heat, the rat has nowhere to escape besides down. Rat goes through the Donnie's stomach and the rat lives. Unfortunately, you die and you now have a hole in your tummy. Quickly looking at impalement, it was very commonly used by Vlad the Impaler, as his title suggests. Also, very simple method. A pole is sharpened, sometimes actually they used a blunt pole, which is pretty wild. Then you would stick it up the backside of the victim, like a kebab skewer. The pole is put up vertically, and then due to the victim's weight, they just slowly slide down it with the pole in their butt. I might be missing something with this one, but surely the impalement is worse, right? Like the rat one is nasty, don't get me wrong. I remember seeing it in like Fast and Furious 1 or something, or 2, I don't remember which one. But at least you can die knowing you have saved a rat's life. You know? You've done something good, technically, just kind of. At least because of your death, the rat has survived, and he can go back to his family. Impalement, however, that just sounds too painful. Like, imagine the splinters. It's long. And imagine they decide to use a blunt pole. Long day. You don't want that. I don't want that. Funnily enough, these next 2 were commonly used by my boy Genghis Khan. Flailing was a method used a lot in Game of Thrones, actually. In simple terms, it's what Arthur Morgan does when hunting bears, but you just replace the bear with a human, slowly removing the skin. Yeah, this one sucks, I'm not gonna lie, this one's pretty bad. The last method is probably one of my favourite ones on this list, and it is the mock pardon. Once again, a Genghis Khan speciality. What a cheeky guy, man. See, so in this one, the victim would be taken for execution whilst begging for his life, and just before the execution, an officer would arrive with a pardon. The victim would obviously be extremely grateful, he would be thanking everyone. Just an emotional wreck, you know? being saved from the clutches of death. Then, out of nowhere, they would be told that that was actually fake, and the execution continues anyways. This one is just pure evil. I actually think the mock execution is worse because not only are you being executed anyways, but the emotional roller coaster you go on thinking you're gonna die, and then the relief of being pardoned, and then going back to dying anyways, it's just too much. Flailing is bad as well, don't get it twisted, but I think I'm gonna go with the mock pardon because of the combination of emotional stress as well as the physical pain. And now in the first semi-final we have the saw method versus Scaphism. This is very hard. The saw method literally makes me feel dizzy just thinking about it, but Scaphism really sucks as well. It's basically, would I prefer short and brutal or long, pain and a bit less brutal? I actually think Scaphism is marginally worse, mainly because of the duration you're suffering for. The saw method is like 10 minutes top, I think. But Scaphism lasts a whole flipping week. That is so long, just being stuck on that boat for a whole week. I think I'm going to edge this one to Scaphism. Let me know what you would pick, because I think this is a very hard choice. In the next semi-final, we have got Impalement versus Mock Execution. My boy Genghis had a good run, but I think I have to give it to Vlad. If you disagree with me on this one, let me remind you, the size of these sticks. I felt sick watching the 13 Reasons Why broom scene, you know what I'm talking about. So how the fuck can I deal with Vlad and his sticks? The mock pardon is playing with my emotions, I get that, but I can't ignore the size of these logs being rammed up you know where. So I think I'm gonna have to go with the logs, if I'm being honest. They just seem so much more painful. And now the finale, Scaphism versus Impalement. Both have a fairly long duration. Both are very painful, obviously. Both involve your booty cheeks. The thing is, Impalement is probably more painful at the start, but as you're just hanging in the air, surely the pain kinda flatlines, right? Because you're just chilling there, realistically, with the pole. With Scaphism, the pain is consistently high throughout the entire week, and each day just brings about a new surprise, right? Like a new bug could just come and lay eggs inside you. It's long, right? And I think the pain gradually gets worse and worse as the week goes on, as more insects feast and make babies inside you. Ugh. It's a very tough choice, but I think the winner of the most painful torture method is going to go to Scaphism.